This segment is brought to you by Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. So we're always glad to welcome in to the station here. Blake Tabor. Blake, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Keith, as always.
We appreciate that, of course. First Lieutenant, Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office. We're always glad to be able to find out some situations where you guys have done a great job of investigating and figuring out who's doing what and how to get them off the streets.
Absolutely. And so, look, this is a case that kind of piggyback off the one we featured a couple weeks ago that happened down in Dulac with the series of business burglaries there.
Right.
Here we are now on the Chauvin Bayou with the same type of activity. So this one was kind of highlighted on June 11th of this year when we found out that a pretty reputable business in Chauvin was broken into. As we began to delve a little deeper into that, we find out from employees that there was some video surveillance footage that indicated at least 3 suspects were involved, and also a substantial amount of copper wire was taken. Now, again, we've kind of seen these crimes that happen with the copper wire. We know what happens with it. We know the type of suspect that we're kind of looking for in those cases. So that certainly helped. But, as we continue through this investigation, our criminal patrol division, who was the ones responsible for the case in Dulac, began to get some anonymous tips from the public, which is starting to become pretty commonplace for that group, which is great. And they ultimately named 3 identified suspects as, first one is a Russell Joseph Nelton Jr. He's a 43-year-old male. Chad Paul Trahan, 52, and a Cody James White, 40 years of age, all of that Chauvin area, and you see them photographed here. So once we got that information from the anonymous tip, of course, we have to take that information and put it to use, right? So we began by locating Cody James White. He was the first one that was brought in to be questioned. You see him photographed here. And ultimately, he ended up admitting to his involvement in the case.
Oh, nice.
So again, armed with that other information that we had of the other 2 suspects, he kind of confirmed that, which, again, there's really no way for him to deny that at that point. And so that ultimately led to his arrest for principal to simple burglary, and he is currently jailed on a $40,000 bond at the Criminal Justice Complex here in Terrebonne. Again, that led us to go and find Chad Paul Trahan, 52-year-old male. He was ultimately arrested for principal to simple burglary and some outstanding warrants that he had for additional unrelated charges. And he is also jailed at our facility on a $50,000 bond.
Okay.
So that led to the apprehension of the 3rd suspect, which was Russell Joseph Nelton Jr., 43 years of age, of Chauvin. We located him at his residence in the 100 block of Judas Street, and what was kind of odd about this particular case, as officers walked up to check that residence where he is a known resider of that property, he was sleeping in a chair underneath the carport. So once they came upon him, they were able to quickly identify him while he was sleeping, and of course that aided us in getting him quickly into custody. So he is currently still incarcerated on principal to simple burglary, which is a felony, and a $50,000 bond by local judges.
Yeah, and so again, I love when these things come to a peaceful end.
Absolutely.
Right? And I love the fact that we were able to utilize the community to be able to get these people apprehended, because very often there's somebody in the community who goes, I heard somebody talking about it.
Absolutely. And look, I'll tell you, with this criminal patrol division, this was something that was kind of created at its inception with all of the down the bayou activity that was happening with the bridges being out and all of these different things. But they are really garnering a lot of respect from the residents down those bayou communities, and that's what we needed. They're truly that link to kind of connecting all these crimes.
Right. Speaking about a link, the recent passing of former Sheriff Jerry Larpenter has affected lots and lots of people, but nobody more so than law enforcement. Maybe if you could just tell me some of the reactions that you and some of the team have had to that, and maybe some of your favorite experiences with Jerry.
Sure. I'll tell you, he's a person that is not replaceable, right? I mean, his larger than life personality, and you could see it from the minute that you would meet him. he's going to be a big loss around the office, and again, I think he was enjoying his retirement as of late, so we weren't seeing him as much. But I think it was about him trying to separate and just really enjoying his new grandkids and his family, which is something he didn't get a lot of chance to do over the last 30 years of him being sheriff.
Right.
I can tell you one of my personal experiences was when I came back to work here from LSU, my son was very young. He was 4 years of age, and he was really big into football. And I remember the first time that he came to visit me in my office, we walked into Jerry's office, and my son saw a Nicholls State University football helmet on Jerry's shelf. And he saw a football sitting next to it. Now, that helmet and football was signed by the entire team. Well, my son looked at that for years. Every time he would come visit me at work, he would want to go see the football helmet.
Right.
And go see Mr. Jerry. Ultimately, towards the end of his tenure, Jerry told me to come in and invite my son in. And when he did, he presented him with the football helmet and the football. And it's something that my son, who's a huge sports fan still to this day and attends Vanderbilt, and he keeps it on his shelf in his room, and he's never taken it down. So, just another piece and experience of how he's reached other people other than just employees and residents alike. He would give you the shirt off his back, and when he said it, he meant it.
Yeah, he would give you the football helmet and football off of his shelf.
Absolutely.
Right, if it made a difference to somebody.
And it wasn't even a question.
And he did, right? It was something that, and again, we've been hearing those kinds of stories. And so for all of us, again, sorry for your loss. And that's a big loss. And so it's a big loss for the community as well. Blake, we always appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Keith.
All right.
I appreciate it.
All right, guys, that'll do it for this particular segment. But don't go anywhere. I got a whole lot more right here on Bayou Time.
This segment was brought to you by Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough.